My flight was the only one still waiting, delayed for reasons no one would explain. Most passengers had already left, leaving behind only a few restless strangers and an unbearable silence. That was the moment I should have realized something was terribly wrong. The plane finally boarded near midnight, and the cabin felt unusually cold the moment I stepped inside. With so few passengers, I had the freedom to choose any seat I wanted. I picked a window seat near the front, far from the others gathered nervously at the back. I thought the distance would give me peace, but it only brought me closer to the truth. As the plane took off, the cabin lights flickered softly, like a dying heartbeat. A strange tension filled the air, heavy enough to make breathing feel difficult. The passengers behind me whispered among themselves, their voices trembling with fear. I tried to ignore them, but their panic slowly began to infect me. A flight attendant approached and politely asked me to move to the back with the others. Her voice sounded calm, but her eyes carried a deep, hidden terror. Confused but unwilling to argue, I gathered my belongings and followed her request. I didn't know that decision would haunt me forever. The moment I sat with the other passengers, the plane fell into complete silence. Even the engine's roar seemed distant, as if swallowed by the darkness outside. Everyone stared toward the front section, where I had been sitting moments earlier. That was when I noticed the figure still seated beside my old window seat. The person hadn't moved since boarding. Their head rested unnaturally against the window, and their skin looked pale under the dim cabin lights. A faint reflection on the glass revealed lifeless eyes staring into nothingness. We were sharing the flight with a dead passenger. Panic spread quietly through the cabin, yet the crew behaved as if nothing was unusual. The attendants continued their duties, avoiding the front section entirely. The body remained seated, strapped in place like an ordinary traveler. The silence around it felt alive, watching us all. Trying to calm my racing thoughts, I decided to visit the restroom. Inside the tiny space, I splashed water on my face and tried to convince myself it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe the passenger was unconscious or severely ill, but deep down I knew the truth was far more disturbing. As I stood there trembling, a violent bang struck the restroom door. The impact was so strong it shook the walls around me. Another strike followed, louder and desperate, like something trying to force its way inside. Then, suddenly, everything went quiet again. My heart pounded as I slowly unlocked the door and stepped out. The hallway was empty, the cabin eerily peaceful. No passengers stood nearby, and no crew members seemed concerned. It was as if the terrifying noise had never happened. Just then, the same flight attendant appeared beside me without a sound. She pushed a service trolley and stared directly into my eyes. Her expression was cold, her smile forced, and something about her presence felt unnatural. I quickly looked away, sensing she didn't want me asking questions. I returned to my seat, trying to ignore the growing dread inside me. The passengers around me sat frozen, refusing to look toward the front. The atmosphere felt heavier with each passing minute. Something on that plane was deeply wrong, and we were all trapped with it. Hours passed, and the cabin lights dimmed for the overnight flight. Most passengers pretended to sleep, though fear was visible on every face. I noticed one man quietly praying under his breath. Another kept staring toward the front, his hands shaking uncontrollably. Then the call button from the dead passenger's seat suddenly lit up. A soft chime echoed through the silent cabin. No one moved, and the crew ignored the signal completely. The light continued blinking, patiently requesting assistance. It felt like the plane itself was waiting for someone to respond. The button stopped, but moments later the overhead light above that seat turned on by itself. Slowly the figure's head shifted away from the window. Its lifeless eyes opened, staring directly down the aisle toward us. A suffocating wave of terror spread through the cabin. A woman screamed, breaking the silence at last. The crew rushed forward, but instead of helping, they quickly pulled the curtain, separating the front section. They sealed the area off without explanation. Whatever was happening behind that curtain was never meant to be seen. The rest of the flight continued in dreadful silence. No announcements were made, and no one dared to ask questions. The plane eventually landed just before sunrise, and we were instructed to leave quickly. Authorities were waiting, but they refused to explain anything. To this day, I still wonder what truly happened on that flight. Sometimes when I travel at night, I feel someone watching me from the empty seat beside me. And every Halloween, I receive a flight notification on my phone for a journey I never booked. The departure time is always midnight. The seat number is always the same, and the passenger list always includes my name.